Hello everyone, Lit here. So in this video I want to showcase a setup that is very different from what I did with the Frost Mage. So if on the Frost Mage I'm using crit setup, this setup will be a non-crit setup. So first thing first, this setup is not cheap because I'm using quite a lot of jewel, even though the jewel that I'm using is relatively cheaper than the one that I'm using on my Frost Mage, but because I'm using a lot of jewel, and this end up making the setup quite expensive. And for the showcase on the background, the bridge boss is +4. And for the bridge encounter, I do not take sustained siege. So this bridge will spawn the monster faster. And so far, it does give me more bridge splinter. It does give me more monster, so the bridge feel a lot more dense. And the goal is able to clear all the bridge monster without taking the sustained siege. And with that said, let's move into the setup. The first one, let's talk about the gear. I'm still using Trans Timber. It is going to give +3 all minions, this a decent amount of DPS. And for the scepter, looking for level of all minions, spirit, and attack speed and increased damage. And for the helmet, looking for level of all minions, life, energy shield. For the boots, increased movement speed, life, energy shield, and resistance. And for the glove, life, energy shield, and resistance. And for the amulet, look for level of minions, spirit, energy shield, and resistance. And for the ring and the belt, I'm using Ventor and Ingenuity. This is not mandatory. The reason why I'm using Ventor is for more spirit and more rarity, because rarity is really good right now. You can use a yellow ring or yellow belt. I think that's fine. It's not that big of a deal. And for the body armor, look for energy shield, spirit, and resistance. So this is my passive tree, and I do take a lot of jewel slot, and the reason for that one is because this is all my jewel, and this is the reason why I'm focusing a lot on jewel, because my jewel have maximum energy shield, minion deal increased damage, and minion attack speed. And having a lot of jewel like this make me to not have to take the energy shield node. So as you can see over here, I do not take this node, I do not take this node, I also do not take all the energy shield node on here. And I still maintain 5.1k energy shield, which is, for me personally, it feels comfortable. An important note is over here is file mending. The most important part of this node over here is the regenerate. And this is because I do not use Skeleton Cleric, and this regen basically good enough to keep the minions alive. And from this part, I just basically go pathing toward here until I can get down here. And because I do not have to spend a skill point on the energy shield node, I can put the point into this node. Like this going to give me more minion damage, and this node also going to give me more minion damage. And for the anointment, I going for Mass Hysteria. This is going to give the minion 6% attack speed. I don't think this is the best anointment for the minions, but for now, this is the anointment that I'm using. And for the ascendancy, it's still the same. I'm still using Loyal Hellhound, give damage reduction. This is just very good defensive node. And Art of Flesh, this is also a very good defensive node. And Bedard's Hand to get more energy shield, and Bedard will give me more spirits. So that's about the passive tree. The next one, let's move into the skill gems. And for the skill gem for Hellhound, I'm using Splinter and Demolisher, and this make the Hellhound able to apply the armor break pretty quickly. And the next one is Lacerate. I don't think this is mandatory. I play around with Bleed, but it's kind of okay. It's not really that big of a deal. And the next one is Fire Exposure and Strip Away, and this is because I'm using Raging Spirit, and Raging Spirit is doing mostly fire damage, so this will give a little bit extra DPS for the Raging Spirit. And for the Skeleton Sniper, I'm using Martial Tempo, Brutality, Half, and Feeding Frenzy. And for the last slot, if you want to go for single target, put in Chaos Mastery, and this will give you decent amount of single targets. Now the number here, 51k, looks big, but remember, sniper do not have any AoE, do not have any mechanic that can make them shotgun. So this 51k for single target is actually not that big. And for clearing speed, there's a 3 options: Scattershot, Pierce, and Fork. I'm personally using Scattershot. This is, I think, is the strongest for clearing, but it does reduce your damage by quite a lot because it reduces your attack and cast speed. The second option is Pierce. Pierce make you still have decent amount of DPS, which is not that bad. But I think Scattershot is still the better options. And for Fork, this one is the weakest of the 3. I do not recommend to go for this one. And if you want to push the clear speed more than this, you can replace the Brutality with Fork. This will improve your clear speed by a lot, but it's also going to reduce your single target DPS. And for me personally, I'm only using Scatter Shot because I think the clear is already pretty decent. And the next one is Storm Mage, and this is basically just for some extra shock. I'm using Overcharge, Conductions, Stormfire, Lightning Penetrations, and Lightning Mastery. The Lightning Mastery is optional. If you do not have 6 Link, you can just remove this Lightning Mastery. It's not really mandatory. And the next one is Raging Spirit. And for this one, I'm going for Heavy Swing, Fire Infusions, Immolate, Primal Armaments, and Infernal Legions. The Infernal Legions help a little bit on like some AoE damage, but I don't think it's that mandatory either. So you can change this into Fire Mastery or Minion Mastery if you want more damage from the Raging Spirit. So for the Pen Offering, I'm using Ablations. This is increase the effect of Offering. And Expanse, this is going to give the Offering 50% more AoE. And Font of Rage, this is going to give the Minion Rage, which translates into attack damage. And I'm also using Persistence. This is going to make the offering last a little bit longer. And the last one is Font of Blood. The last one is really not mandatory. This is just some extra reagents. I don't think you need the last slot. So if you do not have the 6th slot, you can just take this one off. It is fine. And if you only have like this 3 slot over here, Persistence is also not mandatory. Persistence and Font of Blood, this is more like some extra. And the next one is Green Fist, obviously because this is Energy Shield build. And having Green Fist is just a very good defensive layer. And the last one is Firestorm and Flame Wall. And these two skills is basically save the same functions, which is to spawn Raging Spirit. Now, I like to use Firestorm on mapping. And the reason for that one, because it do not fill my screen with Flame Wall. And using Firestorm is also make me able to cast the Raging Spirit on the enemy instead of near me. So the Raging Spirit basically can spawn near the enemy. So that's the reason for the Firestorms. And for the support gem, I'm using Arcane Tempo, Mobility, and Fiery Death and Ignitions. Now for the Fiery Death and Ignitions, this is just some a little bit extra. I don't really think it's mandatory. Because this would give more chance to ignite. If it's ignite, it have a chance to explode. It have a better clear. That's about it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. And for the Flame Wall, this is good for single target because it also going to add some fire damage to your sniper on single target. So Flame Wall for the single target, Firestorm for clear. And if you do not want to have 2 of this, you can just put the Arcane Tempo and Mobility here, and you can just use Flame Wall. It's just fine. For me personally, I don't like to use Flame Wall on the mapping because it just fills the screen with Flame Wall, and it make it really hard to see what's happening on the map. And that's it for the setup. Now let's talk a little bit about the build itself. So this setup is not exactly new. I see some people already playing with it. I think all of them using Reaper and Sniper. And there is a benefit of using Reaper and Sniper because I do try that combinations. So Reaper is better on close map. So on map like Augury or Crypt, snipers sometimes have a problem to position themselves in the map like that. So Reaper is more efficient in close map. Also Reaper is better for single target. So Reaper in terms of single target is, I think, is better than Sniper. And the reason why I go only Sniper is because Sniper and Reaper is the same type of minion. It's attack minion and it's also deal physical damage. And the problem with this is it basically need the same support gems. And in Path of Exile 2, you can only use the support gem once. So you kind of have to prioritize. And most of the time, the heavy DPS will go for Reaper. The reason for this is because you can use 4 mastery gems on Sniper. So you can use Fire Mastery, Minion Mastery, Physical Mastery, and Chaos Mastery because Sniper have all that 4 tags. So basically that will be the mastery gems for the Sniper. And something like Martial Tempo, Health, Brutality, and Heavy Swing will be on the Reaper. And that's probably the setup if you want to use Reaper and Sniper. But if we're talking about clearing speed, the Sniper tend to do better job than Reaper because Reaper is melee. And the problem with Reaper is also you cannot have too many of them. The reason for this one because body blocking on Reaper is the worst. So for example, if you fighting a single target like a map boss or like Uber Pinnacle bosses, if the boss size is not big, having too many Reaper will make them body block each other, so some of them will not be able to attack the target. So I do try something like 7 to 8 Reaper. I think that's pretty nice. But because I have to use a different support gems, meaning the Sniper won't have the optimal support gems, meaning it's going to have less damage, and I just don't feel like that's a good idea. And this is also the reason why I'm thinking about Gem Legionnaire. it have a node that make you able to use your support gem twice. But the problem with Gem Legionnaire is, number one, I'm going to lose a lot of spirit, and I'm also going to lose a lot of energy shield because of Without Will and Without Hands. So losing spirit meaning I have less minions, but I don't think that big of a deal. But losing the energy shield, it is that big of a deal, because if I lose energy shield and it does a significant amount, so now I have to take the energy shield node. That's mean more skill point. I don't know if I'm going to have enough skill point if I'm using Gemini Legionnaire. So I'm not really sure should I go for Gemini Legionnaire or not. And another questions that coming up when I want to switch to Gemini Legionnaire is also like, do I really need the Reaver? Because so far I think the Sniper is doing a very good job, and for the close map, Raging Spirit able to do what the Reaver can do. So for now, I think the setup do what it's supposed to do. But I still think that I'm not done with the setup, because I think I still can optimize the setup a little bit, but I just don't have the answer for all the problems on the setup right now. So I think that's all about setup. And if you guys have any questions, leave it in the comment below. I will try my best to answer all of it. If you like the video, consider like and subscribe. That will help the channel a lot. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good day.